for us to understand. Their ultimate goal is to be in power, period. They truly believe they know what is best for everybody. They make up what is best for everybody in their own minds, and they spend all of their time, all of their life, achieving power in order to express what is in their mind. And as long as they come from a humanist background, what is best in their mind is a changing thing. If they had, you know, I'm not saying we should go back to kings and stuff like that, because that's not freedom, and they will become tyrannical. Well, but there are rules that we believe are immutable. You know, in the recent McDonald decision, Justice Alito was talking about the Bill of Rights that were rules that pre-existed the Constitution. They were given to us by our Creator. And so those are there, those are rock solid. You know, the left, they think the Second Amendment is an embarrassment. They've almost wiped out the Fourth Amendment. They've turned the First Amendment upside down on its head and come up with these, you know, the right to privacy, which created abortion or legalized abortion and all of these things out of whole cloth. It isn't there. But you see, it's that mentality where we think there's right and there is wrong, there is good, there is evil, and there are consequences to whichever way you go. They don't think there are any consequences, so they'll go wherever they think they can have power and exercise that power over everybody. And if you look at liberals all around the world, what's that? Forever. Forever. Well, as long as their lives are, because they don't believe in the afterlife, then they will pass it down to people who follow in their footsteps, who they bring up through this kind of a thought process. Humanist organization and planned confrontation on the path to liberal power. This is part of the answer to the question. Yeah.
I want your opinion on Newt Gingrich states in one of his books that he feels that the Republicans that were in power found it much too difficult to be in power because they have to be in charge of committees and take on all the political responsibilities of being in power.
So they should be squishes in order to be...
So they retreat from having to take on the responsibilities. What do you think?
We're gonna. The Republican members of Congress in the Senate and the Republican members of the state legislature here in California, in every case, you're going to have a handful of people who get it and understand it and are really true, deep down Tea Party patriots in their heart, whether they're actually a member of a local group or not. They understand freedom. Okay? Unfortunately, they have been uneducated to the point of taking control of the joint, so they're the ones running who gets appointed to what committee, and if you screw up, we're going to dump you from the committee, be Republican or not, and we're going to put somebody who's going to be tough on this committee to run the show, which they have the power to do, but the leadership doesn't do it because it's not the traditional way of doing it. So they are victims of the system instead of warriors for what's right and righteous. We have to send people out there who break the rules. You guys have already broken all the rules. First of all, you're here on a Saturday in the summer in beautiful Northern California to learn how to fight with liberals and win. You've broken all the rules already. Let me tell you, the other side, when they have a meeting like this, with people smiling and willing to learn and asking questions and stuff like that, the only way they would have a meeting of activists getting together to do that is if they were forced to be there. You know, union bosses, all of you, okay, all the union leadership have to come over here to learn how to fight the conservatives. Or the teachers union, and people are going to have to be put into a room, and they're going to be in there, and they're going to be listening to all of this stuff, and knowing that they have to be there or they don't have a job. In which case, most of them are going to be sitting like this. And their meeting takes 45 minutes, and they learn how to fight the conservatives, and off they go. But that isn't what it's about. It doesn't take everybody to be the leader in order for a movement to move. You folks here in this room make up a small minority of freedom, of the citizens of America and California. Okay? But just with this small group, there can be enough leadership to change things in California and in Congress, and we'll talk about that. I'll show you. Okay, so the humanists are not sitting idle, waiting for the country to fall into their laps. You know, they're not just sitting there. Okay? They are incremental. They're fighting for it one piece at a time. They choose special areas of public interest, and we all know. Just think of think of a liberal cause and just shout it out.
Education.
Abortion. Technology.
Gay marriage.
Okay, you all hit things that, given normal life, none of us would ever think about because they're not real. They're created things. They're created movements in order to make progress from their perspective. They selectively choose an existing issue or create one, then organize a given class of citizenry around it. And this is important. A given class of citizenry around it. The cause is of secondary importance. The primary concern is the organizational possibilities. Okay? Welfare itself is a cause that is not so important to the liberals. It isn't the issue. It's the welfare recipients that they can organize to vote for a candidate that is important. Okay? It is the environment itself is not that important. You know, there's nothing magical about that issue, except that is one where they can appeal to the emotions of a lot of young skulls full of mush from colleges and universities and get them involved in the process, in political protest. They create issues because their issues don't exist. You know, I just heard a report a couple of days ago that what's happening down in the Gulf, it's almost like there is no environmental disaster. They're finding a plume here and a plume there that they can take care of, and it's like, God, we gotta heal the earth. Oh man, how'd that happen? You know? So the issue itself, the cause, is not as important as the ability for them to organize. Acorn.
Immigration.
Immigration. I'll tell you some horror stories about immigration in a little while. Subject criteria must include, these are the issues that they're looking for in whatever issue they pick. It has to have shelf life. They have to have the time to frame the issue. They have to have time to recruit followers and build the aura of public support. Like the environment. Everybody wants clean air. Everybody wants clean water. And they go and they say that, and they say that, and they say that, and then they start to say, but you know what, there are some people who are polluting it. And then they go and they tell that to the people that are the potential followers, and they get them into the process. They have to have the time to establish this, to build the structure. That's what they look for. Yes, sir.
So you're saying that this makes sense that they're building multiple organizations across the country on each individual issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's their game plan, is to have a multitude of organizations.
That's correct.
That's the Democrat Party.
Huh?
That's the Democrat Party. It's a bunch of small groups that they bond together, and they really don't all agree with each other, but they keep going.
Don't get ahead of me.
Okay.
Like I said, I love you guys. You're smart. You're actually brilliant. You understand a lot of these things. We just need to put them all together so that we are the ones who are in charge. And it's us who's deciding who's going to be in Congress, and we're deciding what our congressmen are going to do. Okay? The object is usually to garner a populist imagery to justify governmental intervention. So that's what they try to do. The environment. Clean air, clean water, mud holes and weed patches, whatever it is, stale daughters and all of these things. And then what they try to do is come up with a solution that has to come from government. Okay? This problem can only be solved by government. Stress the word imagery, because real tangible support is not necessarily needed. Just the perception of popular support will suffice. And you know, so many times there are issues that come up, and you get a couple of Hollywood celebrities who take on an issue, and people in the media think that the whole world thinks like these people. Okay, bureaucratic employment will then be provided for their followers, thereby broadening their base and further legitimizing their cause. This also creates more union dollars for their political action committees, funneling major funds into elections of more of their own kind, incrementally advancing their humanist goals. This is the technical structure of what they do. They build these organizations. They make government react and grow in order to solve the problems that they identify. Then they make sure that it's their people that are hired by government to solve these problems. And because they aren't really problems, they're basically hiring activists whose job it is to make sure that they keep the issue alive so that they keep their employment. And of course, all government employees are union guys and gals. And they are required to put money into political action committees through their unions. And those unions will always support those people who want to grow the number of public employees so that they pay more money and give more money to the candidates, and on and on and on and on. So these issues have a purpose, and it doesn't matter what the issue is. The purpose is to grow government with their own people, because that provides them the financial resources to stay in power. Certain criteria needed to organize effective causes, or some of these used to be known as front groups. I mean, that's what we used to call them, front groups. The issue selected should have, like I said, a sizable universe of potential followers in order to make the organizational effort worthwhile. They pick an area to where they say, you know what? We can get a majority of the college students activated on this issue. Whether it's an anti-war movement, whether it's an environmental issue, whether it's whatever. You name it. They look for a potential of attracting a bunch of gullible souls and organizing them into a movement. Other than that, it's not worthwhile. A hardcore of knowledgeable, trained spokesmen and leaders. That's what happens. Once they organize, they train people. They have leaders who are taught how to lead, how to collect names, how to know how to contact people, how to write stuff that's incendiary to keep everybody up and going, how to organize with other leaders to do things politically together. We'll talk about that. That's a good question. Are we getting that? The answer is that we're getting it from them where it hurts, and we aren't doing enough of that on our own. Enough seed money to carry the project until sufficient funds can be raised from supporters. In other words, they have ability to raise money, and we have to admit this. I mean, they've got foundations, they've got George Soros, they've got people who are out there who will always provide the financial resources for them to start these movements. And then all of a sudden you hear that Soros isn't supporting them anymore. Why? Because they're now self-sufficient. They have gotten to the point to where they have enough government employees whose political resources are going to the unions and are paying for these people to be in power. It's systemic. A media through which to rally support. Of course, we all know that the drive-by media, as our good friend Rush likes to call them, they're gullible, and they just kind of pitch it to them, and they take the ball and run with it. And they talk to each other because they use all the same cliches, all the same terminology, and on the same day. So they're complicit in this. The environment, most polluters, global warming, mountain lions. But again, the issue that they pick isn't so important. It isn't what matters to them. For conservatives, the cause or issue is the important thing. The thought of organizing, educating, and political action rarely actually crosses the conservatives' minds, because we don't think that way. Okay, we don't think about, we would never think about growing government so that more people go to work for the government, so that their money would go to their unions, so that they can give it to conservatives. Ain't gonna happen. Doesn't work that way. Okay, so we don't think in those terms. Leftists believe that if they gain no residuals, it's a waste of time